Absolutely, where would we be without?
Remember how to do it? I mean, you wouldn't want to do it without proud of you.
In the 90s, well, 70s, 80s and 90s, my experience of being in school, I was just seen as a burden. So I was told that I wouldn't achieve anything. And yeah, it was just I should just go somewhere to be entertained and not be educated. And that was the attitude towards disabled people at the time, that, yeah, just be put in a place out of sight. We didn't have access to simple things, whether it be shops, restaurants, cinemas, or even public transport, or even your home wasn't accessible. So you're talking very basic things that people were fighting for the right to just have. Not luxuries, just basic human things that everybody else has.
So DAN, Disability Action Network, was a group of disabled activists who came together, who were the ones in the early 90s who basically chained themselves to buses and outside Parliament to try and get the law changed for equal rights for disabled people. And a big part of that was also not liking, so Red Nose Day and all these big, the channels putting on these big fundraising events to help poor disabled people. What the disabled community wanted to say is, we're not a charity, we are a people, and we should have equal rights to work, equal rights to public transport, equal rights to housing. And the DDA, the Disability Discrimination Act, is a massive act of Parliament with subsections in it, and in the mid-90s one of the biggest of it came into part, which was reasonable. So Part M building regulations came into effect in 95, and that basically said any business in the UK had to reasonably adjust to make themselves accessible for disabled people to be able to use that business. Until we started to realise that reasonably adjust, which is part of the legal wording of that part of Part M, meant that businesses could do the barest minimum, get away with it legally. So we were like, yay! And then we very quickly realised how little the business community would actually do to invest in making themselves accessible.
So back in 2021, I think it was, we looked at all the audience numbers for people who were engaging in creative practice in Peterborough, and we recognised that people who identified as deaf, disabled, neurodivergent weren't actually engaging in the arts. So we decided to do a whole load of work. Because all Peterborough Presents is about understanding why people aren't engaging in the arts, and then working with those communities to understand what the barriers are and how we can co-commission and create work together. We brought together a group of individuals who identified as DDN and organisations and said, what do we want to do together, and what can we change about our existing programme, and what would we like to commission, what work would we like to create for that community as well. And that's where we started creating a programme called Reasonable Adjustment, which makes reference to the 1995 Disability Discrimination Act. So in RAD 2.0, we had Faye's Commission, who's the lead artist, and we also had 3 early career artists who had some smaller commissions, and then some community-based projects as well. And that was really important, that there was a range of different activities that were going on of different scale. One, Faye had a lot longer to spend time working with different communities, and really getting to know them. It was really important that we found opportunities for those who were just starting out on their career, exploring themselves maybe as a socially engaged artist or exploring their own disability. But then the community ones as well. There's lots of community groups that just want to try a bit of creativity and do things. So the scale was really important. If you look at deaf, disabled, neurodivergent, it's immense. And how does one artist then look at all of that and make sure that all those voices are kind of incorporated and heard? So it was really good to have lots of different types of activity that were happening, and people who might approach different kind of communities, might have different disabilities, but also the art forms differ as well. So Faye has worked through print and kind of t-shirt making and craft. Then we've got filmmakers, we've had stitch and bitch sessions in kind of community cafes. We've had an accessible club night with Lava Lamp at the Willow Cafe in Central Park. And it's being able to do that in all the different parts of community and regular places that people might visit in the city. So it's not all happening in art galleries or museums and private spaces. It's in everyday spaces that we try to work, and hopefully people feel that that's quite accessible.
I think the RAD programme, from my perspective, is so incredibly important for any marginalised community. We're obviously talking about the disabled community. And seeing every facet of this programme come together, because I've had the privilege of being at various different things, Peterborough Represents is essentially helping build a robust community that wants to push the boundaries of what being disabled in today's society means. And that collectivism is exciting to see. People feel individualised more and more today. You live at home. I think COVID changed it a lot for people. People stayed at home. There's less opportunity for people to meet up and talk about their grievances. And this has been such an opportunity for organising people. Unintentionally, no one's been pushed into, you have to go and talk and collectivise. But around the talking point of the DDA and reasonable adjustments, it's essentially created a little movement, and a movement that I think is really empowering.
So when I originally signed up to it was the flower crown making at Peterborough Museum, the Frida Kahlo one. And I thought, okay, I really like Frida Kahlo. For me, it was about, I'm going to go and do a workshop, and it's about art therapy. It's about, being creative in a space that's relaxing. And hopefully that helped me sort of with my confidence. Within about 10 minutes, it was very apparent that it wasn't even about the art. It was about being around good people, members of the community, positivity, a safe space to talk about difficulties, struggles, achievements and wins. And by the end of the session, when I sort of had a moment to stop and reflect, being an educator, reflection's a huge part of how I process everything. I became incredibly overwhelmed about the fact that I finally found something that was helping me integrate back into the lifestyle that I had before, where I was happy, confident, very social, very outgoing. I almost finally found the switch that's going to help me get back to that. And I sort of cried into my husband's shoulder before I'd even left the building, and was like, I've just had the best day. I feel so seen. I feel so embraced by this amazing community. And that's when I started signing up to other sessions, because it didn't matter what the art content was about. It didn't matter what the session was about, because I just knew that there were going to be the same environment, the same support, the same resources. And I went from, I found an art subject I'm sort of interested in, to I will attend any of these sessions just because of the feel of being a part of a community, and being around these amazing people that I'd got to know.
For this particular project, I've created over 100 t-shirts with protest slogans, and those in themselves are really powerful. It's kind of stating what people want, but also how they live their lives and how positively we contribute to society. So there's positives and negatives within slogans, and I found those really powerful. And the t-shirts represent human beings who have worn those and who've fought for what we have today and what we're kind of continuing to fight for. I love working with people, but I also think it's really important to be able to give people an opportunity to have their voice heard. And sometimes it's about people not having the opportunity or being given one, but sometimes also people don't have the confidence So by giving people that opportunity to be anonymous, they can say whatever they want. And it becomes like this nice big collaborative voice, which I think I think that becomes more powerful than just being my voice. And and it will connect with more people. I'd like for non-disabled people to have a real understanding of what our lives are like, beyond this perception that often the news generates of us being lazy or people who just are scroungers, and this is toxic narrative that's around. I'd like them to see that we work really hard, a lot of us, and the benefits that we do get enable us to get the support we need to be independent and work. And for those who can't work, that's fine too as well. You may be bringing your children up at home or just actually trying to survive and get through the day. And the work showcases that. It shows how hard life can be, and that getting through a day can be really exhausting. But I also want to, politically change things, because I just think what we're going through right now is awful. Having so much taken away. Every time there's cutbacks, like the governments are looking to take away money, it's the disabled people that are hit. It's the people with the least. It's people who are poor and disabled that get money taken away first. And I think I really wanted to highlight that with this work. Yes, it was supposed to be a celebration of the 30th anniversary, but that wasn't what was in my heart. I couldn't go, yes, look at what we've gained, because I don't think that's not how I feel. Yes, wow, we can get into a shop. Isn't that amazing? It's not. We should have always been able to got into a shop, and we should have always had access to education. My parents shouldn't have had to fight for me to have the right to be in school. Or any other parent. They shouldn't have to fight, and parents shouldn't be having to fight now for their children to be in school. And it's exhausting when you have to fight every day for the most basic thing, and work on top of that. And that's what disabled people have to do. Every day is fighting, and that's what this work is about. It's just trying to raise awareness, and whether it be the governments or organisations and educational institutions, I want people to just see what this, try and make a change. We're human beings like everybody else, and we should be treated with the respect and have the equality that everybody else has.
Why are disabled people always the first one in the firing line?
Do you know what? What does it say about a society that treats the most vulnerable, or often the most vulnerable, in this way? It's disgusting. Where is the empathy? Where is the kindness? Where is the support? I don't see myself as... I am vulnerable. I'm not weak, but I am vulnerable because of my disability. Naturally, I am vulnerable, but I am a strong person in other respects, but I am vulnerable, and I have to fight for every little thing in my life. I have to fight to be able to work. And I don't understand why society is so unkind to disabled people. I just don't understand. And it hurts.
I think for me, one of the biggest things that programs like the Reasonable Adjustment Program offers, and I think Hannah, you touched on this earlier actually, is the way it brings a community of people together. I think that is absolutely huge, not only for the individual, like you were talking about earlier. I've experienced that sort of stuff. I could really relate to what you were saying earlier about that. There's a power that comes from being part of a wider community that can push towards demanding that change, and can sort of spearhead campaigns and can help with activist movements, things like that. Really, if you want to start something from a grassroots point of view, you need to bring communities together. A lot of the progress that has been made has come from grassroots movements. A lot of the push towards the initial DDA back in '95 was through what seems like grassroots movements, where disabled people were brought together, often through institutionalized ways, it has to be said. But then, the protest movements come about off the back of that. This is a nice way of doing it. It's not like a special school where people are being kept in one place. It's, this is bringing people together through sort of shared interests, really, in things like art and, those sorts of things that just bring people together a lot more naturally than maybe what happened in the past. The power of people coming together and what can be changed then is absolutely huge.
The RAD sessions and being involved with the community has awoken something in me. I am so much more aware now about what impacts people just through meeting members of the community, talking to members of the community, being embraced by the community, and feeling so empowered in that space, but also feeling so embraced by the community that I now want to be doing what everybody else is doing. And a huge part of that has become activism.
It's also a really scary time to be disabled in terms of benefits, DWP, access to work. The Labour government want more disabled people to go to work, and there's lots of disabled people who want to go to work, but we need help and support in doing so. But they're cutting that support whilst insisting that we go to work. So it's a really difficult time to be disabled at the moment. It's a little bit scary. So the fight is nowhere near over yet.
What's been important for Peterborough Presents in the Reasonable Adjustment Programme is that it's not just been a one-off project. It's this, like with working with most communities, we try and work with a community for like 3 to 5 years, because you've really got to spend time getting to know the community, understand what their wants and needs are. And it's actually the DDN community that asked us to be much more political on this programme anyway. But actually working alongside a community, you're constantly adapting and growing and thinking about what else needs to be said. And certainly when we looked at this being the 30 years of the Disability Discrimination Act, the anniversary, we wanted to look at what has changed, but knowing that things are shifting and moving and that more change needs to be made. So we knew that we're working together, there's a lot to be talked about, but we know that will continue to change in the future. We still have lots more to talk about and lots more to learn and lots more to do.